For me doing what you do, we appreciate y'all.
Shout out all the veterans.
Appreciate all the veterans, and all the people in the military. Thank you for everything that you've done for us and keeping the country safe. We appreciate y'all for y'all service, man. For the baby blues.
Thank you. Thank you to all the veterans around the world.
It's Service Day, man. Shout out Granddaddy.
That's my grandpa, man. You already know. Hey, I want to shout out my sister. You know, she enrolled in the Navy right now. Love her.
Shout out to all the veterans. Shout out to my dad and my uncle. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Shout out to all my vets, man. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for the service. Shout out to those vets, you heard me?
Shout out veterans. Shout out you, Uncle Dave.
A great message there by the football team. But hey, everybody. How is everyone doing? This is the final Paws Up preview of the football season as we get set for the final game at the cage between the FIU Panthers and the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers at 3 p.m. Hey, everybody, again, I'm Jake Gibson, along with my friends and co-hosts Kevin Barral and Jonathan Mayer. Man, we're getting close to a full football season of coverage here on the Paws Up podcast. This Paws Up preview series, of course, compiles all the work we do regarding game-by-game coverage. That includes these previews, along with the halftime reports and the post-game shows. So, fellas, it's been a hell of a ride. Of course, there's been some good, there's been some bad with this FIU football team. But at the end of the day, I think we've done a hell of a job covering them.
Yeah, I kind of wish, we would have had one more cover that bowl game, but it's fine, obviously. We always have next year, hopefully, and it's been a fun year. A lot of highs and lows. That post-game show against Sam Houston definitely was
That's got to be our favorite memory, right? Favorite memory?
100%. And then, obviously, a good time we've had this year. Being able to watch a couple of the games together, away games, and one last time, pack the cage. I think we're going to say that a lot here, but definitely pack the cage. Attendance has been disappointing the last couple of games, and hopefully we could make it look like how it was against Liberty a couple weeks back. Yeah,
because granted, a 4-7 record might want to stray you away from attending this game, but there is a lot to play for the FIU Panthers. You're playing for pride. You're playing for the professional level coming up, and you're just playing to put on a good show for the fans. So. Johnny, of course, you've also been with us for the majority of these preview shows. Just talk a bit about the journey to get to here. From our first coverage when we were all crammed together at Tamiami Hall for that Louisiana Tech game in Week 0, to now where we'll all be there at the cage in a couple hours.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, what was it? It was the Shamari Lawrence play. He had a 60-yard touchdown run, and everyone was like, okay, this season's going to be something. And obviously we know how that first game went. And, even we talk about the rise, whether it was a 3-game winning streak and we beat UConn, we're 3-1. Yeah. We're thinking, okay, this team is something special. And then we kind of, take a little detour, within that stretch in October where, we're losing tough games, obviously the Vice game. And, we thought we had a chance at the Sam Houston game. We won that game and you needed 2 more games to win. And, after that, it really hasn't felt like FIU's kind of carried anything to their side. Last week, you kind of felt that FIU was able to be a little more respectable and showed a little more eagerness and aggressiveness at times. Obviously, they were competitive with Arkansas, you can say, really through one half, and obviously everything kind of faltered in the second half. But we want to see FIU. We want to see them hold that aggressiveness into today's game. And look, you want to win. It marks a one-game improvement over last year, which was 4-8. You don't want to go 4-8 back-to-back seasons. If you go 5-7 this year, it's still an improvement. But it's better than having back-to-back years of the same record.
Goodness. You're right, Johnny. You mentioned the Week 0 game. It feels like that was only a couple weeks ago. But no, it's been a few months this season. I tell you, college football, the NFL, they always fly by. They're too fast. And the off seasons are too long. So you just have to enjoy these games while you can. And I think it's we'll talk a bit about it later, but I think it's going to be a fun one between FIU and Western Kentucky. Hilltoppers, a very good team, very great offense. But let's talk a bit about the what we saw in that Arkansas game. Now, you were right. The first quarter of action was really exciting for this FIU team. They got out to a hot start. They matched Arkansas's energy on the field on offense. They put together a couple of nice drives, and considering we saw before this game that New Mexico State went into Auburn and beat the brakes off of them, that maybe there's some Conference USA magic still in the air for this game, but it didn't turn out that way. Kevin, KJ Jefferson for Arkansas set two all-time school records and just had himself a phenomenal game. Probably the best offensive performance that Arkansas themselves have had in a game this season.
Yeah, KJ Jefferson's a stud. When he's bigger than some of the FIU defensive linemen, it definitely says a lot about, the kind of quarterback he is. Now it's just a matter of, will he enter the transfer portal? Will he go into the draft, or will he stay at Arkansas? Someone who is still trying to make that decision here at FIU, and we'll talk about it a little later. But Jefferson's a stud, and he was really damn good, and FIU just wasn't able to stop him at any time. And this is a team that is not very good against the run. Surprisingly, FIU is actually decent against the pass, so they were able to make some pretty good moves out there defensively. But aside from that, I mean, when you're running out, I believe 8 or 6 or 7 running backs, trying to just kind of make up for the production of Raheem Sanders, who was out for that game.
Yeah,
definitely tough for FIU to do anything against them. But I think you guys both kind of hit the nail on the head there. This was a very competitive game, and I would go on to say it was competitive for 3 quarters and a half until Keywan threw that second interception. You can make the case that this was a very competitive game. FIU was never out of it by any means. The score, I don't think, really shows how good FIU played. I do think this should have been a lot closer of a game. And FIU, at one point, you could have made the case that they could have won this game. I mean, really bad on offense. You look at that pass to Dean that was originally ruled a fumble, then later ruled an interception. Then you had that second interception, which basically was the nail in the coffin, followed by the touchdown by Arkansas. Yeah, tough game overall. I will once again, I guess, go and mention my displeasure of having an SEC game this late into the season. I understand why they do it. It's good for SEC teams, but for teams such as FIU, who honestly, they shouldn't have been put in that position where you need to beat an SEC team to stay bowl eligible or keep your bowl eligibility hopes alive. Yeah. Now, again, and we'll mention this if we do a season in review type pod, but FIU shouldn't have been at 4 wins entering Arkansas. They should have been at least at 6 or 7. And, obviously, I don't think FIU was banking on the fact that they would be 4 and 6 entering that week. But again, things happen, and we'll see. FIU definitely played well. Chris Mitchell, 1,000 yards now with FIU, has the chance. We'll talk about it once we go into because that pass defense for Western is not very good. So
it's not very good, and it's something that they can take advantage of. But I shared the frustration with you when we did the preview show that it's nice for FIU football because they got a big paycheck. $1.5 million is nothing to be upset about, even though, of course, you lost a game like this, but to have bowl eligibility hang in the balance, especially against an SEC team that was out of it, right? They entered the game 3-7, even though they went out, they're not going to make it to a bowl game. It sucks that it has to happen that way. And you had mentioned that if this loss against Arkansas happened at the beginning of the season, then FIU can adapt and adjust accordingly. And some of those games down the stretch would have mattered a lot more. And again, that what-if game against Louisiana Tech in Week 0, it's really coming back to haunt FIU as they're going to be on the couch come bowl season, watching a few of their conference opponents make it to some bowl games, and they're not gonna. So
it was a successful season for the conference, and we could talk about this just kind of to make up for time. But Liberty and New Mexico State, 2 teams that are conference newcomers, and both of them are in the conference championship. Liberty undefeated now in the college football power rankings. They're, I believe, 25th. So very good for them. And New Mexico State, a team that had struggled for a couple of years, likely their best season in school history. Honestly, when you look at it, they're going to face off with Liberty, and I think that's going to be a very fun game to watch.
Very fun.
Pittsburgh. So yeah, and for the most part, Jacksonville State, another team that hopefully makes a bowl game. We'll see.
They received votes, right? They're not in the top 25, but I'm guessing they received some votes.
They're not going to receive votes. They're not undefeated. They don't have 1 loss. And again, the competition's been tough, but not to the point of Liberty where you're, I believe, 11-0 right now, going to go 12-0. They would be the first undefeated team since, I want to say, Tulane in Conference USA. So good for them on that end. So yeah, it's been a very fun year for the Conference USA.
Fun year. Conference
USA, competition-wise, it's gotten a lot better. I mean,
better.
I will circle back to it. Liberty and New Mexico State, Jacksonville State, and even Western Kentucky, which FIU faces today. 3 very good teams and 4 very good teams. And then you have FIU, who's kind of on the rise. Louisiana Tech has put up some very close games. And then you have Sam Houston, who definitely should not have the record they have right now. They should be a lot better than the record speaks. And Middle Tennessee and UTEP, we'll have to see. Those are 2 teams which I'm more surprised that Middle Tennessee didn't find as much success as UTEP did, as much as I thought they would. I thought Middle Tennessee is definitely one of the conference disappointments. But yeah, aside from that, very fun year in Conference USA, definitely turning into one of the better G5 conferences, you can make the case. And now you have Kennesaw State coming in next year, so that adds on.
We spoke with, I believe it was Grayson James, as well as a couple of other people on the show about the state of Conference USA, that it was the wild, wild west of conferences because nobody knew how it was going to turn out. So there was a big hope that a Conference USA title was up for grabs for pretty much everybody in the conference. But as it turns out, the newcomers, with the exception of Sam Houston, because they're still getting their bearings together, but 3 out of the 4 newcomers from Conference USA are pretty much dominating the conference right now, taking it away from the veterans. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, especially when you add another team in Kennesaw State next season, how they'll mesh if they find the same success that teams like Jacksonville State did. But we'll see. Getting back to the
granted, this is a bad look on Conference USA, by the way, to a certain degree. When you have the 2 newcomers make it to the championship game, unlike the teams that have been here for a very long time, such as FIU, Western. I mean, it's a bad look, but it's also
in fairness to that, we ourselves have seen these 2 teams prior to them joining the conference. Liberty and Jacksonville State beat us and beat some other Conference USA schools. So heading in, I think we felt that Jacksonville State and Liberty, and even to an extent New Mexico State for sure, would have started off hot in the new conference. But still, it's going to be an interesting way to see how this conference develops, how these teams can sort of match up to what Liberty has done this season, which has been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal. So let's take it back to the Arkansas game. Johnny, I want to talk to you about this. It was not all doom and gloom for the Panthers. They did set a couple of school records. Kewan Jenkins, 6 rushing touchdowns. That's the most by a quarterback in FIU history. And then Chris Mitchell, he had 157 receiving yards, and he crossed the 1,000-yard mark on the season. He's only the 3rd wide receiver to do so for FIU, joining T.Y. Hilton and Tyrese Chambers. So offensively, we did see some bloom from this FIU team, and just talk a bit about the impact that Jenkins and what you've seen from him these last few games, and of course that bit of history he made.
Yeah, I mean, to note also, so with Chris Mitchell, he obviously joins, Tyrese Chambers and T.Y. Hilton with that 1,000-yard mark. Today, he just needs 73 yards to break the record for most receiving yards in a single season by an FIU receiver.
Gotta get it.
So I think it's very doable for him today. We saw how he played against Arkansas. He made some incredible catches. I think he made a over-the-shoulder catch. We saw was when Kewan and Chris are connected, they're like the Tua and Tyreek of FIU football. Like when they're on a special heater, they're unstoppable. And I think I go back to I think it was the main game. He had 203 receiving yards.
Yeah, he did.
UConn game, the big touchdown passes. When they're in sync together, the Sam Houston game-winning touchdown. That two have been such a special connection for FIU. And obviously, the games that FIU has won, it's really been with having the ability to throw the football. And Kewan Jenkins is 4-1 this year when he throws a touchdown pass. So with that, FIU shows success when he throws the football. And with that, what I mean, obviously, the one loss comes against Arkansas, but you have a chance in conference play today. If he was able to throw the ball, have some time in the pocket, he can make some big throws. And I think he's going to do the same thing today. Well, he's going to find his weapon in Chris Mitchell. Those two have been just a great duo this season. And I think for FIU, they just have to keep feeding the ball. We saw how much FIU wanted to give the ball to Chris Mitchell. He kept feasting, and he did that against the SEC team. I think today he's going to have over 100 yards against Western Kentucky. And I think if he has a touchdown, FIU wins. And FIU is going to score over 35 points today.
Whoa. Is that your bold prediction? You said 35
That's
points?
the start of my bold prediction. We'll get to that at the end of the show.
Okay.
He's gonna say 73-0. But anyways, yeah, I don't fully agree. Kewan struggled very much in these past couple of games, and they haven't targeted Chris Mitchell that much. Look back at the Middle Tennessee game. They barely targeted him. And look back once again at the Arkansas game. They barely targeted him through the first quarter or two. They didn't. You have to look at end of the second quarter on, which is when they kind of realized Chris Mitchell's actually on this team. Let's target him. And they didn't. And, Kewan has struggled a lot. The play calling, once again, I don't think it's been very good. But it's not all on Kewan, obviously. But I wouldn't say Kewan is, Mr. Hot Shot right now. He definitely struggles. He's had his struggles for almost the whole entirety of the year. And again, true freshman, so we give it time, but we'll see. He has time, and he has a chance to redeem himself. I wouldn't say 35 points because FIU has only gotten past 30 points, I believe, once this season. So I think that's a little – I love you, Johnny, but that's a little absurd on your end. But
a little absurd, but you know what? That's why you play the game, right?
I guess.
So the nasty – let's transition to the defense, Kevin. There's been a scary trend with this FIU team these last few games. It's giving up massive amounts of points early. In both the UTEP and Jacksonville State game, they gave up 21 unanswered in the first quarter. Against Middle Tennessee, they gave up 17 unanswered in the first quarter. It looked like they relieved that against this Arkansas game, but in the second quarter, they gave up 24 unanswered. This is a nasty trend from this defense, which has looked good at times, but their inability to start games off hot leads to massive disadvantages and massive leads that this FIU team has to sort of claw their way back into games. And against an offense that can be as fierce as Western Kentucky, I can't help but feel that is going to be another real possibility.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we have to hammer this and have to hammer it big time because Austin Reed may be one of the best passing quarterbacks in Conference USA. It's between him and Diego Pavia of New Mexico State. Those are two of the best quarterbacks in CUSA. I will say, and that's, again, I'll circle back. Conference USA has had some very good quarterback play this year for the most part. Besides UTEP, it's been pretty good. But again, FIU doesn't struggle against the pass. I don't think there's real in WKU is one of the worst rushing offenses in the conference. So,
which is a relief. Thank goodness.
It's pretty damn good. But again, Middle Tennessee was not a very good rushing offense, and look what they did to FIU. So I wouldn't get your hopes up. Same goes to Sam Houston. They did the same thing to FIU. So you got to look at their passing game. It's the best in CUSA. You have Malachi Corley. That guy's an absolute stud. First player that Coach McIntyre mentioned was Corley as one of the better guys. And, that is Austin Reed's go-to target. If you ever need a touchdown, call Malachi Corley because he leads Conference USA in touchdown receptions this season. So that'll be huge. He also has a lot of targets. He spreads the ball around a lot because then you come to look at who leads the conference in yard. It's not Corley. I believe it's Smoke Harris. It's either Harris or Chris Mitchell. But so Austin Reed loves to go to spread out his targets, and that's definitely going to be something big. He's not a big running quarterback. He doesn't scramble. If he has to, he will, kind of like Grayson. Mm-hmm. But should be big game. FIU
big game
just needs to stop them.
So, by the way, before we completely move on to Western, the last thing I want to mention from the Arkansas game is that even in their losses against even in their last couple losses, Jenkins did not throw an interception. Against Arkansas, he threw 2, including that really crazy pick 6 in the second quarter. I mean, was it a fumble? Was it a pick? There was a lot of debate, but at the end of the day, it was registered as a pick. So, fortunately, turnovers were another struggle for FIU this game, which is something we really hadn't seen, at least from Jenkins specifically. So, at the end of the day, a Conference USA team against an SEC school usually does not fare well for Conference USA. That New Mexico State game against Auburn was the exception, but I mean, let's move on now to this Western Kentucky game. Some of the players we can see that make a big impact. Before we do that, I didn't want to forget Thanksgiving a couple days ago. Just how was everybody's day? Hanging out with friends and family, watching some football. What was on everybody's plate?
A lot of food.
A lot of food. Johnny, turkey or ham?
I had a mix.
Oh, you had a mix.
I will say this: turkey's extremely overrated, but the turkey I had yesterday was actually pretty good. So
how was it cooked?
Like dry.
It was juicier than the other jerkies I've had in past years.
I had turkey breast. I didn't have a turkey. I had turkey breast. We did instead.
Okay. But the sides are where it's at, right? Like we had mashed potatoes,
cheese, corn
salad.
souffle.
Oh, it was all good.
Potatoes. Can't go wrong. Thanksgiving.
It's funny. We never get to the desserts because we're so full on the actual the bird and the sides that we just never get to the desserts.
There's Christmas. Sorry, Johnny. And then there's Thanksgiving right under it. And then Hanukkah's up there with Christmas. We'll give it to you, Johnny.
We're gonna have a tier list now.
Of course,
a tier list we're gonna have to make of holidays. So and unfortunately, the football was kind of underwhelming as well.
It was. Besides the Lions game, which was pretty good towards the end.
That was a shocker. But the other games were
Green Bay's not that bad.
All right, so let's get into this Western Kentucky game. Kevin spoke a little bit about the offense, and damn, they are a great bunch. The Hilltoppers last year, okay, they went 8-6. They knocked off Southern Alabama in the New Orleans Bowl. That was a great year. They beat FIU by a score of 73-0. Granted, that was in Bowling Green, but Austin Reed, who you were talking about, his stat line for that game: 30 for 35, 381 yards, 5 touchdowns. Corley, as you had mentioned, 2 additional Malachi Corley, 2 touchdowns, 123 yards. That was probably one of the worst losses in FIU history. Did it really have a massive impact? Not really, because that was during a long stretch of losing, and it was sort of capped off. So this season, Western Kentucky has been good. Maybe not as good as last year per se. They have a 6-5 record. They beat South Florida, which everyone thought would be a massive, massive win because South Florida was kind of on the rise at that time. They also beat Houston Christian non-conference, and a couple of their Conference USA wins, I believe, Middle Tennessee and Louisiana Tech they beat. So we had talked about FIU struggled to knock off Middle Tennessee. Well, it's just the same against Western Kentucky. Their last win against the Hilltoppers, 2018, my freshman year. So in the 16 matchups all time, the Panthers have lost 10 of them, dating back all the way to 2002, their very first season. So let's get into this offense, man. They're ranked as the 4th best overall in Conference USA. That includes passing and rushing. FIU is 8th, by the way. They average about 28 points a game. And for once, FIU does not have to go against a dual threat type quarterback. If there's anything we need to see FIU change about their image, it is their inability to stop the dual threat quarterback system. That's something they really have to work on defense. Thankfully, that's not really going to be a concern today. Austin Reed, he's like a more traditional football player, right? He's like the Peyton Mannings and the Aaron Rodgers that are left. Does not move around that much in the pocket. He can evade tackles, but he doesn't, he'll only run if he has to. Otherwise, he'll hand the ball off to get those rushing yards. But we can quickly debate this. You had mentioned Pavia. I do think Reed is the best pure passer in Conference USA right now.
I don't disagree, but I'm just saying Pavia's up there as well. It's either him or Pavia because Salter is the best quarterback in Conference USA right now.
Overall, yeah.
Yes, but he is more of a dual threat. He's very dual threat.
You're right. But if we're talking about arms, I think Reed's got a cannon.
Reed, and then not too far behind, it's Pavia.
Shoemaker also is up there as well as
Shoemaker. He's all right.
Johnny, are you also in agreement with myself in that statement?
I think though that with Pavia, he has taken a rise compared to what we saw last year when FIU beat Mexico State. He definitely has improved over the course of playing. Every game he's gotten better and better. I do think though that Austin Reed is I think probably the better quarterback Obviously, I think from a passing standpoint, I think that Pavia fits probably the mold of what the current day situation is. But I think with Reed, he has an arm, he has talented receivers around him. He was a guy that was about to leave Western Kentucky last year, but decided to stay one more year, and continues to rise. And obviously, Western Kentucky has been a great program to get quarterbacks, whether it's Bailey Zappi, Mike White as well. So they've had a lot of work there. And Mike White, Western Kentucky. Shout out. So I think that Austin Reed more of a veteran like, but I think I enjoy watching Austin Reed a little bit.
Would you say Reed is the most out of all the quarterbacks in coverage? Would you say Reed is the most NFL ready, I would say yes. I think so. I think he has the arm. He has the arm talent for sure. You could also make the case for Salter again.
I think Salter too. Salter's the most. Reed is the best passing quarterback in Conference USA. That's easily. Pavia is very close, but Reed is definitely. If you have to like today's game in the NFL, it's a lot more quarterbacks you see them run. That's where Caden Salter fits. He's gotten the Lamar Jackson comparison plenty of time.
Yeah. All of the
obviously, I think NFL ready. Yeah, you may have a case. Reed may be just given his age. How long he's been in college football. This, I believe, is Salter's first season as the quarterback for Liberty, if I recall, or his second. I believe he's just a sophomore.
He still has time to develop, essentially.
Exactly.
We have not seen the best of Salter, and what we've seen already.
Give him 2 more years, and he will be the best quarterback in Conference USA by far.
Maybe one of the best quarterbacks nationwide as well. And
they may start in the top 25 entering the year.
The stats don't lie, fellas. 27 passing touchdowns, 3,060 passing yards. Both of those are the most in the conference.
He has 11 interceptions, right?
That's what I was going to get to. That's his problem. I would say that's Reed's biggest downside. 11 interceptions. That's the most in Conference USA as well. I mean, when you have a pass-heavy offense, that tends to happen. Sometimes he forces the ball when he needs to make a play, and this is something that FIU secondary could sort of play into. Do you think? I'll ask this to Johnny. Do you think that FIU secondary is ready to take on the passing ability of Reed, especially knowing that he is prone to turning the ball over?
I think FIU has a chance to get some turnovers. I think we saw how much they feasted off of those interceptions early in the season. I mean, I think of the North Texas game, UConn game, they had some. The main game as well. Like the FIU was even La Tech. They were prone to forcing turnovers. I think this is an opportunity for FIU. If they have a guy that's going to pass the ball a lot, I think FIU has a chance to make something happen. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a guy like Varick Daniel or CJ Christian getting something up. Which I wouldn't be surprised. I think if he throws the ball a lot, he's prone to mistakes, and I think FIU has a chance to force some interceptions today if he's not able to find the right guy in the pocket.
The one thing that has been mentioned for weeks and weeks is how quick this FIU defense is. So there's one thing they'll definitely thrive in is being able to keep up with these receivers. Now, obviously, we saw the examples of the UTEP game, which weren't very pleasant. But aside from that, FIU has really been able to limit quarterbacks, at least in the passing game this year. And that's why they rank, kind of in the middle tier of Conference USA. I believe it's 6. Or even I think 5 or 6 in Conference USA when it comes to passing defenses. And, Brian Blaze has really taken a step forward. He, no longer dealing with injuries. Hezekiah Massas, who, I have a quick article on him coming out tomorrow where he could possibly be taking his future too. A lot of guys on this defense that have the opportunity to do it. I'm very surprised CJ Christian hasn't been a little bit more active. He got off to such a good start this past year. I know he had the concussion, he had to go to the hospital and all that, but he's been back for I believe 2 or 3 weeks already, and very surprised. Maybe he gets an interception. Yeah. And I want Reggie Peterson to get his interception. I need Donovan Manuel. Last game with FIU.
To get that forced fumble.
Shout out to him. He's surpassed over 200 total tackles, surpassed over 100 solo tackles. I believe he's at around 90-ish assisted tackles. So Donovan Manuel had 2 excellent seasons with FIU, and we wish him nothing but the best. I know he's going to be honored. A lot of guys are going to be honored. Lucas Matias is going to be honored, and Jackson McDonald's getting honored. So a lot of guys are getting honored this Saturday.
Yeah. So in their last game against Sam Houston, by the way, the Bearcats were actually winning relatively late in that game against Western Kentucky. They actually had to come back and take the lead back. But 392 yards against Sam Houston State. By the way, we need to mention again why is Reed having this much success? They probably have one of the best offensive lines in Conference USA as well, man. They got some big dogs there in the front seven, man. He's one of the least hit, one of the least sacked quarterbacks in Conference USA, and it shows, man. He usually has a lot of time in the pocket, so it's going to be a tough hill to climb for this FIU defense. I'm really interested to see how they go up against this guy, especially because as we mentioned, there's non-dual threat quarterbacks are hard to come by in Conference USA. So this is going to be a real outlier in the conference. So he also gets a lot of receivers involved in these games, right? There's been 11 different players on this Western Kentucky team that have at least over 100 yards this season. Not to mention there are 2 with 300 yards. I think that's Dalvin Smith and Easton Messer. But as you mentioned, I believe Malachi Corey, 906 yards, 10 touchdowns. That's the second most passing yards in Conference USA. Behind
Caden
Chris
Salter.
Mitchell, guys, Jesus.
Yeah.
And the most receiving touchdowns in the conference as well. That does belong to Malachi. Corey, he's that focal point that the defenses just have to always keep their eye on all game, and sometimes that can set up the wide receiver 2s and 3s for some even bigger games than expected.
And I think I mentioned this real quick, but I think we mentioned this, is that Western Kentucky is the worst defense in CUSA, but man, they're even worse defending the run than FIU has been all season. So if there's somewhere where Shamar Lawrence and Keyshawn Owens, who when we saw the video, he was on a yellow jersey, which means limited contact. So we'll see if he's good to go. Hopefully he is. We saw Travis Burke still in red, meaning no contact. From what we all understand, he will be out tonight or today, this afternoon. And we have the same offensive line that we saw last week, which was actually pretty impressive. And we'll get into that maybe soon. But yeah, Shamar Lawrence, Keyshawn Owens, they have a chance to really go off this week tonight. Yeah.
By the way, how weird is it? This is going to be the first and only game at the FIU Stadium that's not a 7:00 kick.
I don't mind it.
You don't mind it?
Not at all.
I guess I don't mind it either. I usually get back to the house at around 10 to 11 because that's when these games usually tend to end. So a little early doesn't hurt. Now, Johnny, I want to talk to you about this. Western Kentucky's rushing offense is pretty average. I'd say maybe even a little bit below average. I mean, they don't have a running back that has had more than 100 yards in a single game yet. As far as their best rusher, I guess you could say Elijah Young, 444 rushing yards, the most on the team. But how much pressure do you think the defense is still going to have? FIU's defense is going to have to put on this Western Kentucky rushing attack specifically, so that this running game, which has not had a breakout star yet, let's make sure that doesn't happen, and that doesn't happen today.
Yeah, they're going to have to. I mean, FIU's rushing offense hasn't been great all year long. You look at Arkansas game; they ran the ball over FIU all night long, and you saw how that game went. They took control in the second half. I think for FIU, I think Western Kentucky may try to find a ways to maybe utilize a little more of the rushing offense, just because I know it's more of a weakness for FIU's defense. That can be a case, but I think with the Panthers is just try to find ways. That there's not a big explosive guy in this Western Kentucky rushing offense. As you said, Jake, it's a little more average. But I think for FIU just has to be aware that teams are going to run the ball on them. And I wouldn't be shocked today that if you'll see a little more, carries for Western Kentucky, just to find ways to take control, time to possession, and see where they can work with it. But I think for FIU, they have to find a way to minimize as much as they can, but at the same time also be wary of the deadly passing attack that we see from Western Kentucky this year.
So the Achilles heel of this Western Kentucky team, and Kevin alluded to it, it's their defense. Western Kentucky's defense last year was really, really good, and it's definitely fallen off this season. They're currently ranked as the worst in the conference. They've given up the most total yards of all teams. They're at 4,839. They've also given up the third most rushing yards as well. As much as I would like to revel in that, FIU's numbers are only a few digits away. I think FIU's given up 4,833 total yards. Both teams also have given up conveniently. They also give up 439 total yards per game on average. Both FIU and Western Kentucky do that. So both teams also give up a sort of average amount of passing yards, but that could be you could blame on the fact that the Conference USA sort of Most offenses live and die by the run. So, of course, the passing numbers aren't going to look as impressive, or not as impressive, I should say. So it's weird to prepare for a defense like this because on paper, you know that FIU should probably be getting their points today. But
yeah, they have a chance to.
They have a chance.
Hit 40 points for the first time this season.
However, the one thing that Western Kentucky does really well is their ability to force turnovers, not just interceptions, but also to force fumbles and recover those fumbles. They have 22 so far this season. That's the second most in Conference USA, and that's the sixth most in the country. That includes three turnovers against Sam Houston State, by the way. So, there's not a whole lot of real star talent we can talk about on this Western Kentucky defense, but just what's the game plan for this offense? Where between the defensive line or the secondary or the man-to-man coverages on near the sidelines, how is this FIU offense going to get most of their points today?
You got to go through the air. You have to go through the air. It's that easy. Western has the worst defense in CUSA, and there's just another way to put it. It's that easy. You got to go through the air. Shamari Lawrence can easily give you some rushing yards. Chris Mitchell, you need to get him that record. We haven't mentioned this. Chris Mitchell currently sits at 1,002 yards on the season. I believe the record, and correct me, Johnny, is 1,064?
1,074.
74. Well, so Chris would need an 100-yard game essentially to become this.
That's an 80-yard game.
Yeah. Dude, he could still get 100 though.
I think he's gonna get 100. As I said,
he would become the FIU single season record holder for the most receiving yards in a single year.
Yeah, it's the most receiving yards in a single season. There we go.
There you
go. I think it's kind of rare to see a defensive back lead a defense in total tackles, but that's actually the case with Western Kentucky. I believe it's Talik Allen. He has 46 on the season. He's a corner, but he still leads the team in tackles. Usually that falls to a lineman or a linebacker, but still 9 different players have recorded an interception, 10 with a forced fumble. Defensively, Western Kentucky not the best. We'll see. Any final thoughts for this Western Kentucky game? What we can expect from the Hilltoppers?
Pack the cage. Pack the cage. A lot of seniors will be honored. It's going to be a fun game. It's going to be a very fun game. FIU has a chip on their shoulder. They know 73-0 happened. They kind of want to do this. They want to do it to Western now. So It's going to be very fun, very good game. And we'll have the pregame show as we're doing right now. We'll have the halftime show and then postgame show. We'll be eating Jersey Mike's for one last time all season.
Mike's.
And the field looks pretty cool. So
a very standard but still good looking field.
Was that the same? No, it wasn't. My bad. All right, we continue.
Okay. Let's get into a look around FIU athletics real quick. Let's start off with men's basketball. They currently stand with a 1-6 record. We talked about this with Heath Glick a little bit on our last episode of the podcast. They're coming off a winless streak again in the Cayman Islands Classic. They lost to Akron, Marshall, and Loyola Marymount. They are going to take on the Kennesaw State Owls tomorrow at 6 p.m. That is not a Conference USA matchup. It is a future Conference USA matchup. So that'll be on ESPN Plus. That's that's the start of a 3-game homestand. After that, they'll take on Florida Gulf Coast on Wednesday, and then Long Island next Saturday. So hopefully they can get into a winning streak there. Next up is the women's team. They are coming off a game against Bryant. That was the start of the Thanksgiving tournament. The rest of the games in this tournament are to be decided. However, their next game that you can take to the bank is against Georgia Southern. That's on Wednesday, November 29th at 3 p.m. That's also the start of a 3-game homestand. Also against Jacksonville on Friday, and then Bethune-Cookman on Sunday. They have a 2-2 record at the time of recording, which was the day before. So I do want to mention the indoor volleyball team real quick. They wrapped up their Conference USA tournament appearance. They beat Middle Tennessee in the first round, but lost to the 2nd seed New Mexico State Aggies. So their season has officially come to a close. They wrap up with a 13-19 record. They were 8-8 in the conference, 7-4 at home, 3-9 on the road. Just wanted to mention that. And the swimming and diving team one of the most perennial programs in FIU history. They recently began their season. A hard-fought loss against the University of Miami. They're coming off a first-place position in the TYR Fall Classic. They have a bunch of events coming up, including let me get my bearings in order. A matchup at the Biscayne Bay Aquatic Center against Marshall on Friday, December 15th at 4 p.m. Alrighty then. So that was your look at FIU athletics. So let's get into the fun part.
Can I make some? Can I say a statement?
Okay.
Shout out, Christy Tree, back-to-back Swimming of the Week awards. She's top 18 in the nation within the 200 breaststroke. So,
alrighty, Conference USA predictions.
There we go.
Lights out! Lights out!
Lights out performance for them in Missouri. So yeah.
Here we go.
All right. So
there we go.
Here's what happened last week. Okay. Liberty blew out UMass. No surprise there. 49-25. Jacksonville State demolished Louisiana Tech 56-17. Oof. I thought it was going to be closer than that, but nope. The Gamecocks continue to impress, man. Middle Tennessee survives a nail-biter against UTEP 34-30. Western Kentucky barely escapes Sam Houston State 28-23. The craziest game of the day, New Mexico State went into Auburn, collected $1.8 million, and walked away with a win, a dominating win, 31-10. Shout out to New Mexico State.
The funny part was Rivaldo Fairweather had a touchdown in the game for Auburn. It was like we had Rivaldo Fairweather, New Mexico State won. It's kind of like it's like if I had to choose what I wanted in that game, I got what I wanted. I got a Rivaldo touchdown and I got a New Mexico State win.
Rivaldo's been good for Auburn this year.
Shout out to Fairweather, who's falling out.
And then, of course, 44-20, Arkansas beats FIU. So how did we do in predictions? We did okay, but of course, your boy, the best, took the W. Both Johnny and Kevin went 4-2. I went
solid.
5-1.
I'll take that, dude. The hell?
That's a net. That's profit.
So Kevin took Sam Houston State over Western Kentucky. Johnny took FIU over Arkansas, and we all took Auburn over New Mexico State.
Did we see that coming, the Auburn game? Did you see it coming at all? I feel like now I think about it.
In the preview, I said it was going to be closer than the experts think. I did not think they would actually win.
It was a dominating victory too. Like holding an SEC team to 10 points is impressive.
That's insane. All right, so let's get into this week. We got 4 games on tap. As a reminder, Louisiana Tech season is over, so that's why they're not here. But still a pretty good lineup of games in store. Starting off with a noon matchup that is already in progress. That is Middle Tennessee taking on Sam Houston State. Now, both of these teams have had their ups, but I feel like Middle Tennessee is the hotter team right now. Sam Houston has been competitive in pretty much every game they've played the last few weeks, but I don't know. I don't feel like I trust Sam Houston State just yet. I'm going to take the Blue Raiders on the road. Give me the Bearcats.
Bearcats. I feel, they're going to end the season with a bang.
Okay. I'm not mad. Moving on at 3:30, so a half an hour after the FIU Western Kentucky game kicks off, you have Liberty taking on UTEP. I believe UTEP did not play last week. Yeah, they didn't play last week, so this is going to be their senior day, but I don't care. Give me Liberty. Liberty.
Miners.
Are you serious?
I feel a little shakeup. I think Liberty's going to be sleeping tomorrow. Or today.
This would be the ultimate. I'll say this will be the ultimate trap game.
That's the only trap game. Exactly.
They have everything wrapped up.
They already have the championship game locked up. They're already in the championship game. If you want to lose, you can afford to lose this game.
Well, they don't want.
They don't want to.
You're going to lose your ranking in the college football rankings, man.
Okay, I'll say that. Okay, I feel something. I just think.
So you're actually picking UTEP.
I'm taking the Miners. A little shakeup. Yeah.
Wow.
That's a little.
Can you believe that, Kevin?
It's the last week.
You could have said like any other upset, but that
it's the last week. Let me do something different.
All right.
We know what
Final
you're
game
going to do for FIU, so.
This is a 4 p.m. kick. Jacksonville State versus New Mexico State. This is going to be a phenomenal game. It's going to be a dandy. Regardless of whether New Mexico State wins or loses, they are going to play in the Conference USA Championship game. I will go with Jacksonville State here in the upset. I'm going to go with the Gamecocks.
Give me the Gamecocks.
Aggies.
Okay. Yeah, okay. You want to get a game back because you just picked UTEP and you can't take it back, bro.
The Aggies are. I'll take the Aggies. I think the Aggies. I mean, they're coming off of. They just beat Auburn.
Okay. Now this next pick is going to be obviously a lock and change because it's a week away. But again, this is going to be the last preview episode of the show. So what the hell? Let's predict the Conference USA Championship game. It's in Lynchburg, New Mexico State versus Liberty. Who gets the W? Let's start with Kevin.
It's gonna be a really good game too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take Liberty, man. I don't know. They're just so dominant on both sides of the ball. It's so hard to stop that team. Caden Salter is just a stud. No knock on New Mexico State. They'll definitely get a bowl game, and they're gonna go into a bowl game. They're most likely gonna end up with a win, and maybe I hope it's securable. I'll be there. So. Yeah.
By the way, to provide some context, these two teams played on September 9th, also in Lynchburg. Liberty won by a score of 33-17. Of course, some things have changed for both squads, but still. Johnny, who do you got?
I'll go with Kevin as well. I think the Flames are going to win. I know I said they're losing to UTEP today, but I still think the Flames are going to win. I just think that Caden Salter has been, amazing. We saw it when they came to South Florida. He was just the way he just kind of carried the game. I think Caden Salter is going to be that. I think these two quarterbacks are electric. The way they play very similar styles of football. Yeah. I think it'll be a type of shootout in Lynchburg, but I think the Flames come out on top and continue on with their dominance in Conference USA in their first year and making a statement. I think they win the Conference USA title next week.
You know what? We've built a surprisingly great relationship with a ton of Liberty media outlets, including the Fan the Flames podcast and the Liberty Sports Network. It'd be a shame not to pick Liberty, and I'm gonna pick Liberty. I'm not gonna go with New Mexico State, man. Just Liberty is a near perfect squad. They really don't have a whole lot of weaknesses on this team. New Mexico State has a few areas I'm a little concerned about. Not to mention they're at home. Pretty much every game at Liberty has been electric. It's been a sellout. It's been a fun time from what we've been able to see. So I will go with the Flames as well in the conference.
Alrighty.
Do we want to do a quick NFL predictions, or do we just want to get to the main header, the main headline?
Let's get.
Let's go NFL. Might as well.
Okay, we'll do rapid fire. Kevin and I did rapid fire once. It was only a couple minutes. This should be fun. Again, Thanksgiving games: Green Bay beat Detroit, Dallas beat Washington, San Francisco beat Seattle. This was recorded like an hour before the Black Friday game between Miami and the New York Jets. So we'll predict that one real quick.
Fins up.
Hey. Okay, good. All right. So let's get into the Sunday slate. Starting with the 1:00 games. We have New Orleans at Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Give me
the
Saints.
New Orleans. Give me the Saints. All right. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati.
Steelers.
Give me, the Steelers will be stupid. Give me the Bengals in a close one. Jacksonville at Houston. Take Houston, though. I will say this is this could be a coin flip. It could be anyone's game, but Houston always does good against Jacksonville. Give me the Texans. Tampa Bay at Indianapolis.
Colts.
Yeah, Colts. Holy mid. New England at the New York Giants.
Jesus Christ. Give me the Giants.
Super Bowl rematch, though. So.
New York. Giants.
Okay, I guess I'll go New York. Carolina at Tennessee.
Give me Carolina.
Yes, I'm going to take
I'll take Will Levis.
Titans, huh? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
4:00 games. The LA Rams at Arizona.
Cardinals.
LA.
I'll go Cardinals as well. Why the hell not? Cleveland at Denver.
Denver. They're riding.
Broncos are on a heater right now.
Yeah, they are.
That's good football.
I'll go Broncos. Yeah. Kansas City at Las Vegas.
Oh, KC.
It's gonna be a Chiefs home game.
Chiefs
So, Buffalo at Philadelphia.
Eagles.
Ooh.
Eagles.
I'll take Eagles.
I'm done with the Bills.
I'll take Eagles in a close one.
I'm done with the Bills. I'm done with them.
Well, obviously,
we're
we've
really
been
done
done
with them
for a minute.
but we'll go Eagles.
Yeah.
And then Sunday night, Baltimore at the LA Chargers.
That's a sneaky good game.
Ravens. No, it's not. The Chargers suck, bro. Give me the
I'll
Ravens.
take the Chargers. Give me Justin Herbert.
Give me the Ravens.
Take the Ravens.
Who are we taking for? We already know the Dolphins won. They beat the Jets, so that doesn't matter.
Monday night football, we have Chicago at Minnesota.
Jesus Christ. Give me Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs, Vikings.
Josh Dobbs, the astronaut.
How about the Dolphins yesterday, guys? They were great, right?
Oh yeah, they were
Two
fantastic.
five tutties.
Yeah, I love the part when
Tyreek Hill got the touchdown.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. The moment of truth. Who is going to win this game? As
The
always,
final game.
Let's start with Johnny's wild prediction. Who do you got, Jonathan?
You
obviously know
touchdown?
My predictions have only been FIU wins all year long. I'm 4 of 11 right now. I'm going with another FIU win. I think they're going 5-7. As I said earlier, Chris Mitchell's getting a record. I think if FIU throws the football, they have a chance to win this game. Kiwanis limits some of the turnovers. I think the Panthers win. I think 30 was over 30 points with a stretch, but I do think FIU wins 28-24. Chris Mitchell gets a touchdown, receiving yard record, and FIU ends off the year with a 5-7 record and hopefully carries momentum into next year.
Wow, Johnny. Yeah. Wow. Good for you.
Realistic, yeah.
I'm going to take FIU to win as well. I do feel Johnny's sentiment. And although he said 30 points was a stretch, I don't think it's much of a stretch against this Western team. I will go FIU wins 32-28. I think it'll be very, very close. But I do think FIU has a chance to limit the Hilltoppers offense. We know where
I don't feel as confident as you and as you two, unfortunately, guys. I do think that it's going to be a score fest, but at the end of the day, if it's going to be an offensive shootout, which offense do I trust more? I'm going to trust the best in the conference over a relatively average offense at best in FIU. I hate to say it. I don't want to think about a 4-8 record this season. It'd be the same as last year. It'd be disappointing, but I feel like, it's going to be inevitable. I'm sorry. I'm going to go Western Kentucky 35, FIU 21.
Alrighty. Well,
but you know what? To leave you on a high note, I do think that Chris Mitchell will get his record and Donovan Manuel will get his record.
The forced fumble record or the tackle record?
The forced fumble record.
Okay.
He's not touching that tackle record. I looked it up today, and he needs to get.
He gets 10 tackles through one half, maybe.
He needs to get like 25 tackles or so, or something like that. And most of them have to be assisted tackles. So he at least has a shot at like becoming the FIU single.
We'll tell the staff people. Hey, pull a little assist.
Yeah.
All right,
fellas, what a journey it's been to get to this point. We've now officially wrapped up 12 Paws Up preview episodes, an entire season worth of content. It's been a fun ride. Let's hope for an amazing game for FIU as they take on Western Kentucky. Of course, Kevin and I will be back for halftime and post-game as we wrap up the season. Johnny, of course, keep up with your absolutely absurd FIU predictions, though please learn you got to let it go sometimes. And you have to pick the other team. Okay?
More to come next year.
Your record would be better if you did that, Johnny.
He's gonna take Indiana in the first game of the year.
Oh, that's called progress, Johnny. That's a goal of mine.
We should all try to think about going next in August. That's
next episode of the podcast, by the way, I'll go over our preseason predictions and records to see how we ended up doing. But guys, it's been an awesome journey, this preview show. Of course, we'll be back at it next year.
Wednesday.
Bigger and better.
Jake and I, men's and women's basketball, covering
that's gonna be
for
fun.
You. Back to back. We're going to be there for like 5-6 hours.
National TV game for men's on Wednesday too.
CBS Sports Network, FGCU. I believe they're a very good team. So
women's just beat Bryant by 30 points today, nearly 30 points, 88-59 just now.
And we have some Paws Up podcast news as well that we'll get into post game show. You leave some suspense, but we do have our guest. We have a really cool episode coming up, and
I'm actually very excited for this one too.
As am I. It should be a fun one. So, fellas, for the last time for the Paws Up preview, put your hands in the air. Let's watch some football. Pack the cage. As always, Paws Up.